Yo, what is up, potato chips? It's Zei here from the Zei YouTube channel. Oh, and also I'm not gonna fast fetch this video because frick y'all. Even though I fast fetch, you guys are like, oh bro didn't fast fetch. Anyways, in today's video, I'm gonna be like making the quote unquote ultimate Linux tutorial. Probably just me LARPing and making the thumbnail pretty clickbaity. So yeah, I'm probably gonna milk the Linux Penguin again. Wait, how many videos do I have with the Linux Penguin yet? Literally so close to 10k subscribers. 9.98k. Benjamin Netanyahu. Please let me hit 10k. Anyways, as you can see, my channel has a pattern. Penguin, 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 penguin. And it just goes on and on, right? Yeah, I keep on milking the Linux Penguin because one, it gets me views, and two, I need to feed my cat. Anyways, in today's video, I'm gonna be teaching you guys how to use Linux because, well, a lot of you guys who are my viewers actually don't use Linux. I've prepared this whiteboard for you guys. First, we gotta understand what is Linux. Linux equals kernel. You might be asking, what the frick is a kernel? So kernel equals, is that what a kernel is? I'm pretty sure it is. So basically a kernel acts like a bridge so that your hardware and your software can communicate with each other. There's actually a bunch of kernels in Linux. I use the CachyOS kernel. It is a custom kernel that my OS uses. You know what? Let me fast fetch. So I'm using CachyOS, as you can see. CachyOS has their own kernel. And this is just one example. There's a bunch of examples of kernels. So these are just some examples of Linux kernels that I've used. CachyOS kernel, the original Linux kernel, LTS kernel, and Linux Zen. If you guys are asking, which kernel should I use? Well, performance-wise, this doesn't really have too much effect. But what I noticed, the biggest difference was the support. Because on my MacBook, I was only able to use the Linux kernel, the original one, in order to get the Wi-Fi working. If I used Zen or LTS, my Wi-Fi just straight up doesn't work. In my opinion, just use what kernel that your distro ships with. Or if you want to do experiments, you can install one of these and try out which one works best for you. Because again, this just really depends on you and your hardware. But for the majority of people, I just recommend either the Linux kernel or the Linux LTS kernel. I think I explained what is Linux pretty well, right? Anyways, let's just move on to the next segment. Picking an OS. If we go on this website called DistroWatch, as you can see right here, there's a bunch of distros and you guys might be like, that is way too much. How am I gonna pick? Okay, so most of the distros here aren't even worth trying, but I'll recommend some distros that are worth trying for you guys. So these are the distros that I think are worth trying. This section is for people who I need to get my system working ASAP. Mint and Zorin OS literally don't require any setup. You can install it and get it up and running, no setup required. The drivers, everything is pre-installed. Oh, and if you're wondering, how do I install Mint or Zorin OS? I'm assuming you use Windows. Search Linux Mint on my search engine, go to their website, and I just hit download. Download the Cinnamon Edition. They have a bunch of mirrors here, just choose which one is closer to you. But on Windows, you're gonna need something like Rufus. You're gonna pick your USB drive and then pick your ISO. Oh, and by the way, the file system, just use FAT32 for the file system. And boom, click start and just wait it out till it finishes. Eject your disk, boot into your Linux ISO, boom, install it. Anyways, let's get back to this. Now we have the Arch-based distros, but you get your handheld while you do it. Did that sound sus? Basically, Kachy and EndeavourOS is Arch, but easier. There's also Omarchy, but kind of bloated in my opinion, and I would just be better off installing either EndeavourOS or CachyOS. Arch is a rolling release, so you get the latest and greatest updates, but may lack stability, and your system might just break. Yeah, that's the beauty of Arch. These are the best quote-unquote gaming distros. CachyOS is also good, but forgot to add CachyOS here. If you're a gamer, I really recommend just installing either one of these. I've never tried Bazite. I've tried Nobara for like a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Bazite's also pretty good. You can't really go wrong with any of these. Oh, and the FPS difference is so insignificant, literally. You won't notice like a big FPS difference with these distros, and they all use really low RAM usage. For the all-rounder, in my opinion, is Fedora. I use Fedora on my work laptop, on my newer gen ThinkPad. It works so good. My workflow has improved so much with Fedora KDE. Hopefully I explained that pretty good, but I don't know if I'm a pretty good explainer. Anyways, let's move on to the next section, which is Package Manager. Package Managers, in a nutshell, is basically this. Yeah, it's basically that. What I recommend doing here is doing research on what package manager your distro uses. I use a Debian-based distro, so I do sudo apt install to install an app, and if I want to uninstall an app, I use sudo apt remove. It's different for distros. For Arch-based distros, use sudo pacman, or if you're using a Fedora based distro, you do sudo dnf. Yeah, basically you just need to do research on what package manager your distro uses and you're good. It's literally not that hard. It's that simple. It might seem scary at first because one of my friends installed CachyOS, and then when I told him if you want to install an app, it's better to use the terminal and typing sudo pacman, and he literally uninstalled CachyOS. But dude, installing an app from the terminal is literally way faster than GUI in my opinion. So in a nutshell, this is what a package manager is. That was package manager. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is desktop environment and window manager. On Linux, you can either have desktop environment or window manager, or you can even install both of them in one operating system. So for the desktop environment and window managers that I recommend trying out are these. These are the ones I personally have used and I personally recommend. All of these window managers are kind of hard for beginners. The easiest one that I found was Hyprland and Neovim. i3 and DWM is kind of hard, but kind of not at the same time. Also, guess my window manager. For the desktop environments, I either recommend KDE Plasma. You can also make it a window manager. It can look from this to this, by the way. It's basically the definition of Windows if you give it steroids. GNOME is for users who like macOS. It's pretty good for laptops as well. I'm not even gonna lie. GNOME is pretty good if you use your laptop. But on a PC, I'm not the biggest fan of GNOME. But at the end of the day, Linux is freedom, so you can basically pick any of these that you want. I don't really recommend window managers if you're a complete beginner to Linux. Just stick with KDE Plasma or GNOME. But if you want to explore window managers, for your first window manager, I really just recommend Hyprland because it is the easiest by far to customize. They also have blur animations built in, so you don't have to install third party. Because on i3, if I want blur, I have to install something. I think it's PyCom or something. Yeah, I think it's that. I've never really used it. So yeah, these are the desktop environments and window managers that I've personally used and I recommend myself. So let's move on to the next point. All right, so the next one is the terminal. The terminal can look scary, yes, because you're left with this when you open it. There's basically nothing here. Here is where shells come handy. So these are examples of shell. Fish, ZSH, and bash, etc. Of course, there's a lot more shells out there. What I recommend for you guys who are beginners are fish. So with fish, I actually get auto suggestions, and look, if I type in Endgame, as you can see, it auto suggests. I'm making a website. As you can see, it's a website project for a client of mine that I'm working on. This is why I use Fish, because it really requires zero configuration. For a person like me, I don't have too much time in the world, so I just use Fish, you know? So to check what shell are you using, just do echo and then $shell. As you can see, I use fish indicated with the /user/bin/fish. So how do I install a shell? Because I use a Debian based distro, I do sudo apt install fish, and then I hit enter, type in my password. And as you can see, fish is already the newest version for me. So if you want to start fish, do fish, and it literally just starts fish. Now, if you want to set fish as your default shell, what you're gonna do is do which and then fish. Alright, so you gotta copy this. You're gonna want to do this command called chsh-s and the shell location and then your username. And that's literally it. You just log out, log back in, and your shell should be changed. So these are the terminals I recommend. But the most user-friendly one is Kitty in my opinion, because if you want to theme Kitty, it's actually pretty easy and straightforward. So as you can see, I'm on Kitty right now, and if I don't have time to make my own custom theme on Kitty, I just do kitten theme. Kitty has their own repository and they have a lot of themes here. Like let's say I want a Grovebox theme because my desktop is Grovebox themed. I just do / and then I type in Grovebox. Oh, and let's say you want to set the background opacity of the Kitty terminal. You can use Nano, which is more beginner friendly. Let's just use Nano for curly line thingy and then .config/kitty and then kitty.config. I really recommend just using like a shell that has autocomplete by default, so it's easier, you know. The font size, background opacity, I recommend having confirm OS close to 0 because let's set the confirm OS close to 1. See, it has this, which is kind of annoying in my opinion. You can also set the font family right here, as you can see. If you want to further customize the theme and you don't like how the pre-configured theme from the repository looks like, you can customize the current theme.conf. Anyways, that was the terminal. It's really not that scary. So these are the terminal commands that are essential for Linux in my opinion. A lot of these are related to the Linux file system basics. This is where the next point comes in. Linux file system basics. In Linux, everything equals a file. Hardware, like even your keyboard and mouse, are treated like a file. There's no separate drives like drive C, drive D. I have 2 drives in the system, an HDD and an SSD. So my HDD that I use to store my videos and my games is located in my HDD disk that I use to store videos and my games is located on /mnt. Let's do cd/mnt /sussy. Sussy is the disk name. Now you might be asking, what do these individual folders mean? So home has the things like documents, downloads. Like right now I'm in home. Let's do ls. Oh yeah, I forgot to set my videos to store on my HDD. Home has desktop, documents, downloads. Now for Etsy is where most of your system configuration files are located. Let's do cd/Etsy. A lot of the .conf are located here. Var is a variable data, which is cache, logs, and temporary files. So if something breaks on your system, logs on /var can help you find what's there. Now USR, or I'm pretty sure user, is where most programs live. All right, so that was the Linux file system basics. Let's move on to the next point. Rising. I think a lot of you have been waiting for this. Rising is a part of Linux, and in my opinion, Rising is like making your workflow the best for you. The stuff that you should mainly focus on when Rising is, one is picking a good color scheme. Find a wallpaper that fits your color scheme, like box. I use a wallpaper that matches my terminal, as you can see. Now, 3 is make a good stack. What is a stack? It's basically apps combining together and making an effective workflow. Now, 4 is make it balanced. Don't use too much blur, don't make any of the colors stand out too much. So the easiest way to learn Rising is literally just copying someone's dot files, use it, claim it, it's yours. Yeah, it's literally LARPing. I did that and it worked, you know, I know how to Rice now. So this video is literally just me LARPing and milking the hell out of the Linux Penguin on my thumbnails.